Good morning. I'm going to read from The Living Clean again today. This is the next chapter, Living Our Principles. So understanding is important, but it doesn't help much without application. We apply the principles and we apply effort. We apply ourselves to changing our perspective and our lives. When things get difficult, it can be easy to forget that we already have a life we love and enjoy. We don't have to deny reality to have hope or gratitude. We feel what we feel and we do the footwork anyway. We learn not to take our emotions quite so seriously. My feelings aren't facts, said a member, but I still feel them. When we choose not to look through the lens of resentment and entitlement, we can see the world as it is and find beauty in it even when it's challenging. Each day is filled with opportunities either to escape reality or to show up and live. Each of us works our program differently and it changes for each of us over time. It might mean that we are writing, serving, attending meetings, or just that we are practicing a conscious contact with our higher power. Whatever it means for us, we have a responsibility to walk our talk. The idea that if you want what we have, do what we do, has no expiration date. The awareness that we can always get better brings its own freedom. We can see the changes in our lives and in our thinking, and we know that recovery works for us. The more we know that, the more we can see what still needs to be done. We have ideas about what our lives are supposed to look like by now, and we shame ourselves for not being there. We don't have to get caught up in ideas of where we should be. This is an issue in early recovery, but it comes back as we get some clean time. A member who was homeless on his 20th anniversary was ashamed to celebrate. What have I got to show this newcomer, he asked. That you can stay clean no matter what, came the reply. Acceptance frees us to share honestly about our lives without feeling that we have to fit into a model or be anyone other than who we are. Serenity doesn't mean that we don't experience dramatic events. It gives us the clarity of mind to go through them no matter what happens. We can remain whole and joyful at our core. Our understanding of the steps deepens and we start to see the possibilities they offer in new ways. The more we trust, the more our eyes are opened. We are no longer so focused on what is wrong with us. We start to shift our attention to the assets we have and the hope we can see for ourselves. When we can separate hope from wishing or expectation, it stops feeling like such a setup. More and more we are driven by hope rather than fear. The gratitude we feel grows from relief at not having to use today, to genuine appreciation for our lives as they are and as they can be. When we put gratitude into action, we see the world differently. A member shared, my touch has come back, my smell and taste are alive. My children and grandchildren run into my arms and are safe there. People who come into my life go away with something good. The sense of wonder we experience in our own lives as we were seeing them for the first time brings an array of feelings. Our hearts break for the harm we have caused, while at the same time we are filled with joy and gratitude for the gift of recovery. It is such a relief to be able to feel good again. Even pain is okay sometimes. It helps us feel human, but sometimes it seems like we don't have our hand on the emotional volume knob. When I started to feel I had no control over my emotions, a member shared, I learned different ways to deal with them over time. My sponsor taught me to name my feelings and had me create a written list of healthy things I could do when I was emotional. Our feelings won't consume us, even though it sometimes feels like they might. At some level, it really doesn't matter what we feel. What matters is what we do. We no longer have to act on our impulses and emotions. We can make choices in our lives today about what we do and how we respond. We may still get depressed or frightened or angry, but our feelings don't have to take possession of us anymore. When we realise we've survived every emotion we ever had, we start to believe that we are going to be alright even when we don't feel alright. Our best lessons often come by looking back at our own bad behaviour. Our regret helps us to find compassion for others and a sense of possibility for our new way of life. Getting some perspective means that we can put a little distance between our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Our feelings won't kill us, but denying them might. It's usually when we're trying to avoid a feeling that we act out, creating damage and confusion to divert attention. Admitting our feelings, even when we're judging ourselves for having them, is one way we practice honesty. We come to see our addiction in different ways and to recognise it in different feelings and behaviours. Sometimes it's as simple as obsession and compulsion, but we may also recognise it in a need to be in control, fear of being wrong, self-pity and self-righteousness. We can see it in our other behaviours as well, including conformity, mistrust, inability to feel love or sadness, and fear of change. A member shared, "I have worked the steps and I have not worked the steps, and I have experienced the consequences of both. Our willingness to pay the price for acting out on our defects starts to fade. We learn to recognise our own disease as we get better at being aware of what's happening inside us. When we are better able to look at ourselves honestly and understand how we operate, it's easier for us to accept ourselves. Honest self-assessment requires a little detachment, so we can stop judging and become willing to change. Having compassion for others teaches us to have compassion for ourselves. Some of us ask ourselves how we would respond to a sponsee going through what we are struggling with. We rely on a strong foundation and we never stop working on it. We know what we can expect when we walk into an NA meeting, and that makes us feel safe and secure. We may resist changes to the format or style of our meetings, even when they're a good idea, because we hold so tightly to that sameness. Making changes can be a challenge in other areas of our lives as well. When we're experiencing change, we want to hurry back to a place of comfort and familiarity. Allowing ourselves to have an emotional life without being controlled by our feelings is a new freedom. Knowing our spirituality cannot be taken from us, gives us permission to hope in a new way. Many of us are uncomfortable with hope. We have been so dearly disappointed in our lives that hope just feels like a bad idea. Some of us can't tell the difference between hope and wishing, but the hope we get in recovery is not that we will win the lottery or that our true love will return to us. Hope begins when we think that it might be possible for us to stop using against our own will and stay clean. We find it again and again as our journey continues, in the dark moments when we realise we can go on anyway, and in our triumphs it is possible. It's possible we can break the cycle. It's possible we can exceed our dreams. It's possible that we are much more than we ever gave ourselves credit for. Each time we realise it's possible, our faith grows stronger. Hope doesn't end, no matter how much better or worse it gets. We know that there is still reason to look forward. We begin to experience unconditional hope. Cool, that's the end of that chapter. This is a Living Clean book. If you want to get yourself a copy, read through it every day. Just for today, we do not pick up no matter what. And I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening.